Jessie
Oh,
is at 347 calling out of Pennsylvania. This will be our final call for the broadcast. Jessie, welcome. Are you there?
Oh, hey, what's up?
Welcome. What's on your mind? You're on with Matt and Seth.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So I guess I wanted to give a little background about myself. I grew up in an evangelical Protestant milieu. Think like the mega churches and the youth pastors and all that shit. And actually, I credit you guys with helping me grow intellectually when I was in high school because I've watched you guys' clips all the time. And so I was an atheist for quite a long time, from like high school until probably like
were
a
you a
couple of years
skeptic?
ago. Sorry?
Were you a skeptic?
Yeah, I started really
Cool.
doubting what I was
So,
taught
so,
when
so
I
a
was like 14
skeptic
or
is
so.
a skeptic is somebody who waits until there's sufficient evidence to believe something before they believe it. Since you say you used to be an atheist and now you're a theist, that means you have acquired evidence for a God. So what is it?
Yeah, so I think basically spending years, doing scientific research. I'm working on my master's degree in biology, and I guess just generally exposing myself to spiritual texts, and not just from
Jessie,
Christianity, but from all religions. Yeah,
Jessie, I don't need your
what's up?
backstory or anything else. I want you to present the
Oh,
evidence.
okay.
No, I don't mind a little preamble. I mean, if she wants to give me the backstory, just to indulge me. So you're saying you were on a journey and you began to wade through the waters of specific religious claims, and that helped to get you where you are today. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that. I think that most religions all have a common theme, and that's sort of oneness with the universe. The same reason why we get chills when we hear a great piece of music or see a great work of art. It's the same
Actually,
spirituality that, yeah,
religion can produce religious experiences, meaning sensory conditioned response, can produce these types of feelings, but so can non religious stimuli. The goosebumps, the
sure.
feeling of euphoria, the wide, wild spectrum of human emotion and experience. We have determined that the same sort of uplift and inspiration and rush and endorphin, et cetera, that we might feel at a worship service on a Sunday morning, we can also get at a concert on Saturday night. So I don't necessarily marry these experiences to a God or a specific religion or even spirituality. That would be fair, wouldn't it?
Yeah, not everyone's going to think the same as me, for sure.
Well, that's fine. All I'm saying
I
is
don't
that
even know what
it's not
spiritual means.
required. You don't need those things. You don't need a God to be able to have those. I'm going to use the word transcendent experience, but you know what I mean, right? To have those really
Yeah, definitely.
maximized human moments. You don't necessarily need a religion for that. Would we agree?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's something that everyone experiences, and I think that speaks to something, supernatural. I think it speaks to
Why?
something that
No,
makes humans distinct from
this,
animals.
no, this is the problem, Jesse, because I don't know what the word spiritual or spiritually or spirituality even means, and I'm not convinced anybody else does. But Seth just pointed out that you don't need a religion or a belief in a God to experience those sort of euphoric things and those sensations. And then you immediately, after saying yes, said, oh, yeah, but it points to something supernatural. How? How does any human experience point to something supernatural? What is the test methodology you can use? Because in the entire history of the world, nobody's ever demonstrated anything supernatural. And yet you think
Sure.
this points to something supernatural when I think it points to something 100% a product of our brain, something that we can measure and identify and manipulate by playing. There's a difference between discordant music and harmony music. There's a difference
Hmm.
between art that moves us and art that doesn't. I don't see any justification for saying that anything supernatural is involved, and yet you do. That's the part we need to get to.
Sure. No, I understand that for sure. I think that's what Stephen Jay Gould meant when he talked about non-overlapping,
Stephen
whatever
Jay
the word is,
Gould's
We actually
magisteria.
concept of
disagree on that.
non-overlapping magisteria is irrelevant and
Yeah.
bullshit. I need to know what
Oh, okay.
evidence you have for the supernatural.
I don't have any evidence. not
Then how
scientifically
can you
measured, that's for
possibly
sure.
say that your life experience of studying biology and investigating all this stuff has turned you from an atheist to a theist? Because art and music and the feelings that we get from it points to the supernatural, and yet you don't have evidence for it. And you're a skeptic?
Yeah,
Something
I
doesn't
would
make
say
sense.
so.
Well,
Well, I
I
Jesse,
mean, I
would
think,
say you're not.
if I may,
Yes.
can I
sure.
direct you to a little bit of I want to take a flyer here, Jesse, and I'm going to talk about something related, but not exactly what we're talking about now. Would that be okay? Just because I'm curious, would you indulge me?
Sure, go for it.
What does the belief that there is a higher power and do these moments of transcendence where you feel that spiritual, for lack of a better word, that rush, the maximized moments of being alive, those are attractive
Absolutely.
to you, right? Yeah, you lean heavily into those, and I think you seek those because it is in those moments that you feel truly alive, which is, I think, something that many of us could relate to. Is that accurate with you? You know, when you have what you would call a spiritual experience, it is for you. You feel the joy, you feel the goosebumps, your heart is beating fully, and you feel like you are
Sure.
absolutely 100% in the moment, and you crave those experiences. Would that be fair?
Absolutely.
Do you find that a religion or a belief in a God is required for that for you? Have you been able to get those experiences beyond a God or a spirit?
I mean, yeah, I felt the same way when I was an atheist. Um, I guess the
Can I
difference
ask?
now is that, yeah, go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Go ahead and finish your thought. The difference is
Oh yeah,
now is
no.
what?
The difference now is that I can connect those experiences to something greater, and I think
Okay.
that that
Is
makes me
it
feel more
this?
alive when I.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding, which is why I'm stepping in and we're on the clock. So, is
Sure.
it that you yearn to connect experiences, which in many ways defies language because it hits you so hard? It's like every cell in your body feels it. And so there is a yearning to connect that to something much, much greater than you are. And for you, it has made sense to connect that dot to a God. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's
Why?
totally like, yeah,
Okay, so I'm on your page, right?
yeah. I would say so.
So
Yeah.
is there a specific God that you've connected it to?
I think it's the God of the Bible, of the Quran, the gods of Hinduism,
Those are different gods.
the
So
ancient gods
you've
that
got
pagans
a
probably believed
host
in.
of various gods, many of whom have proper names, and then probably what, just a higher power with a capital H and a capital P, some faceless deistic. There may be something out there, God. Would you include that as well?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think God is
Okay.
a man with a big white beard or anything.
Okay. Would it be possible, in fact, would it be even more probable, rather than say there is an otherworldly, extra natural, magical deity figure, a God thing out there, is it more reasonable to say that that entity would be responsible for what you and I feel in those moments? Or that this is a sensory response to stimuli? You know, we see the birth of a child. We hear our favorite piece of music. We eat delicious food. We are experiencing love by somebody who we are connected to in a way that language does not do justice to. When we crave a way to connect these feelings to language and maybe even assign agency to them. But is it more possible that these feelings of transcendence and maximally being alive, is it more probable that this is because of another worldly, cosmic, magical being somewhere, or that there's a natural explanation that has to do with our bodies, our nervous system, our brain's conditioned response rooted here on planet Earth? Which would sound more reasonable to you?
Well, I mean, I think this is the root of our disagreement is that I don't think that there's they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think that the synapses in our brain are a reflection of this higher power, I guess. And I guess
So
that's where we
for me,
differ.
the higher power would be living in the natural world, action, reaction, conditioned response. But for you, the higher power would be an otherworldly, extranatural, spiritual figure, which could be any and all gods at the same time. Do you see how one is a more reasonable explanation than another?
Well, you're not going to like this, but I think they both require a leap of faith.
Well,
And I
if
think
you
I'd
are
rather,
invoking now,
yeah,
if you're invoking faith, which is believing without evidence, right? Because it's called faith because it's not knowledge, right? If we knew it, it would be
right,
knowledge. So
sure.
then I could make any claim to you and say that we should believe it because of faith. Is faith a good determiner for what truth is?
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. I think
Why would it depend
when
on
it
the
comes to,
situation? If I was going to
yeah,
believe for belief's sake in instance A, why wouldn't it make sense for me not to use it in instance B? Like if it either works or it doesn't. So belief without evidence, is that a good way to determine what's real?
I mean, it depends.
What
I
does it
think
depend
I
on?
think
Help me understand.
well,
What would it depend on?
sure, sure. I mean, I think it depends on the question you're asking. I think when it comes to discussions of a higher power, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to invoke faith. I think when you're dealing with actual material problems in the world like poverty or war, I think that faith is not a good measure. And I think,
Do you would you accept that the God question could be argued to be the most important question for all of humanity? Is there a deity out there? Is there a cosmic other, specifically a theistic other that has a plan for us and made heaven and hell, etc.? Would you allow that that might be one of our most important questions?
I don't think so, no. I don't think that we should be teaching that there is a physical heaven and a physical
All right.
hell. I think that a
I've got what
general,
I need. I think I've taken this, Matt, as far as I can. I feel like we're nailing
sure, sure.
Jello to the wall. It's evidence for these instances, but faith for these instances. I simply stand apart from you in that I don't want to just believe. Whenever possible, I want to know. And if we cannot know, then, or we do not know, I think we withhold judgment. That's the responsible thing. And I think there are natural factors that we can see and replicate and experience, share the experience as humanity on this planet that require no gods and monsters to make us feel these things. And I think those are more reasonable explanations for them beyond the extranatural and spiritual explanations. Is that fair?
Sure. I think that's totally fair. I wasn't out to change anyone's mind or anything. I just wanted to talk spirituality, I guess.
No, I mean, but spirituality is one of these untethered words that anybody can use in any context, and there's no way for us to nail it down. And you understand
That's
the
true.
challenges. Like, would you be able to define what spirituality is?
I think just for me in general, it's
No, no, no.
everything that can't be seen.
Like,
Yeah,
what is it? If it's true for you, it's true for us all. What's spirituality?
right, right. And that's what I can't define. I guess for me, I would just have to look at the sacred mysteries of the church about transubstantiation and
Okay,
the
okay.
rituals that go along with that.
Transubstantiation is a completely different conversation, and it has been debunked. But
Okay.
that's pretty much all I have. I would leave you with, if you cannot demonstrate it, you should not believe it, or you should withhold
Okay.
judgment. And I think natural explanations make a whole lot more sense for us in the real world, much more than otherworldly ones. And I think that's not unfair. Would you agree, Jessie?
I I agree. I agree. And I think, and I agree. I really, I do value your opinion and I thank you for talking through it.
You're most welcome. Matt, do you have anything else?
No, if you can hear me, I missed too much of it to be of any use, and I'm just glad you guys came to some understanding.
Thank you, Jessie, for calling in. I appreciate you.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Spirituality, and then it was all the gods, and it's. I think we have a tendency in many ways. We see this yearning to connect the transcendent, and I always use that word clumsily, but I think people understand the intent behind it when I use it. And they want to say it's almost a religious experience. And we say it that way for a reason, because many times language seems inadequate. And then if we think, well, it's bigger than language, it's bigger than our brains, it's bigger than our hearts, it must be bigger than us. Maybe it's connected to life, the universe, and everything, and that everything involves a deity. And I just think that's a step we don't need to take. The real world can be wonderful enough. And I hope that Jessie is honest enough with herself on her journey to be able to acknowledge that, because I think having those experiences tethered to the real world and not magical thinking, they're actually better. They're more awesome. They're more amazing. They're more rewarding. They're more fulfilling. I would rather have those experiences outside of a God belief, because to me, they just mean a whole lot more. But that's just me. And that brings us to the 5 o'clock hour. Any final thoughts, Mr. Dillahunty?
No, I think the one question that I was waiting, and then there was a power spike here, and it tripped my uninterruptible power supply to shut down everything in order to protect the motherboard from getting fried. It's got a little circuit breaker on it. But the one thing Jessie said that, well, there were several things that I would have addressed, and it was this, I found a way to connect it to something greater. Much like spirituality, I don't know what greater is, what greater means. How do you well, the universe is greater than us. Wait, we need to define great, because if greatness is subjective and it's contingent on us, then the universe isn't greater than us. I'm not sure that there's anything greater than us except for us, the extension of us. But I don't know. When people say, I can tie it to something greater, I don't know while I was away, if you got to that, of what does that mean and why is it appealing? But more importantly, is it true? Does it have any significance? If it's just this, I would like to live in the humility that I am not the greatest thing ever and that the universe isn't entirely about me. Yay! I'm there, despite what some of the trolls in chat think. But I don't know. And what I find is that people will talk about these things and it'd be like, it's spiritual and there's something greater. And they use all of these terms that are meaningless or deepities or confusing, and they think they've communicated something when I don't know that they have. But I'd like to, if somebody actually has something about spirituality or greater that they could clue me in, I'd like that, because I know some atheists and some friends of mine who talk about some things in those terms, and in 20 plus years, none of them have ever been able to describe in any relevant detail what they actually mean. It feels like people are saying there's a lot of mystery, and I just don't want to pretend like I've got it all sorted out. And if that's the case, then don't pretend you've got it all sorted out.
Hey, do you think this clip just fell out of a coconut tree? No. It did. Okay, now technically I did build the channel into a coconut tree and it did fall out. And also that our internet router is up there. Actually, in a lot of ways, this production fell out of a coconut tree. But we could only afford that because people like you supported us for $5 a month over where is that, Eric?
Patreon.com/calltheline. And
that's right.
Jimmy will,
you got it.
be grateful. Yeah.
We have an exclusive patron podcast over there. Check it out. Thumbs up with it, Eric. We talked about this in the meeting. We have to both.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go.